A lot of them have actually been sort of suspended. They've been delayed. It was interesting that actually the announcement last night wasn't even an executive order. It was a memorandum, which I think is a reflection of the fact that something as complicated as universal reciprocal tariffs does not get done quickly, easily, or lightly. So it was a bit of a statement of intent.
Are we in the midst of a total trade war? Last night, President Trump declared his administration will impose the exact same tax or tariff on all imports the White House thinks are coming unfairly into America. The US president says this should have been done years ago. The Times reports this morning that British goods could be hit with tariffs of up to 21% on exports to the US. We just heard from the Science and Technology Secretary Peter Kyle saying cam heads will prevail. But is that enough? One such cam head, I'm sure, this morning is Allie Renison, former advisor to the Business and Trade Secretary, now Associate Director at SEC Newgate, a public relations firm. Morning, Allie.
Morning.
Are you feeling calm about Trump's tariffs?
Well, I'm waiting to see if they actually get imposed.
Yeah.
A lot of them have actually been sort of suspended. They've been delayed. It was interesting that actually the announcement last night wasn't even an executive order. It was a memorandum, which I think is a reflection of the fact that something as complicated as universal reciprocal tariffs does not get done quickly, easily, or lightly. So it was a bit of a statement of intent. And it's actually more of a reflection of one of the commitments that was in a document called America First Trade Policy published by the White House a couple of weeks ago, which basically said we're going to review a lot of unfair trade practices. And the big thing is obviously that things like VAT may be in scope.
I can't escape the feeling that lots of world leaders right now are sitting around waiting for President Trump to say something and do something. With that in mind, given it's a memorandum, given the complexities of these sorts of global reciprocal tariffs, how can and should world leaders prepare for something like this?
Well, I think the big thing about this is that we have seen this before. So we know that under Trump's first administration, he even actually had a paper released by his economic advisors saying that they were looking at VAT. Having said that, even though this is, not the first time round on this merry-go-round, I think that Trump really kind of means some of this stuff in a way that perhaps he was a little bit impinged before. I'd be a little bit concerned about the fact that if he says he wants to look at VAT as a possible trade barrier, he really actually means it. The irony is, of course, is that I actually think that he has the EU in focus, as he does with a lot of things, less so the UK, and whether the UK is going to be able to continue with kind of a heads-down approach in terms of being able to sort of plead special treatment from the US government.
Yeah. In terms of that special treatment, what special relationship we might say in the context of all that's going on, but tariffs of this scale for the UK would reportedly knock 0.4 percentage points off GDP growth. That's about £24 billion for the next 2 years. That could be remarkably detrimental.
It could be, and I think that not just about the sort of pure economic hit, but also the complexity that goes with having to try and, basically catch up something like VAT in the middle of a sort of supply chain wars, as it were. It's really difficult to try and manage and process for companies. And I think the big thing is the cumulative effect of tariffs. It just seems to be tariff upon tariff. Yes, I know a lot of them haven't been implemented yet, but, he went ahead with the ones on China that he said he was going to do. And so I think that for a lot of companies, it's trying to navigate the geopolitical kind of risks, and also how many different tariffs do I need to worry about? Steel and aluminium ones, which are universal. What's the products that are going to be levied on where there's unfair trade and unfair taxes, so to speak. So it's the anticipation and preparation I think is really difficult for companies.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point in terms of companies, how they deal with it, how they respond to it, because they are the reality of the economy. We can talk about data and big numbers, but actually it's businesses that will struggle. So when it comes to VAT, there's criticism that Trump perhaps doesn't understand exactly how VAT is working, that perhaps he's more considering EU countries when it comes to sort of sales taxes and tariffs related. Do you think it's fair that Trump doesn't quite get what he's talking about in this context?
Yeah, because obviously a lot of economists would argue that VAT is effectively akin to a sales tax. And obviously we have sales taxes across different US states in America. It's border adjusted, it's VAT neutral, it's not discriminatory in terms of, it's not just kind of domestic or foreign businesses that are having to pay VAT, it's also domestic businesses. But this seems to have been in his sights for a while, and economic rationale is not always his strongest suit.
Allie, thank you very much indeed. Really good to speak to you this morning. Allie Renison there, a former advisor to the Business and Trade Secretary. She's now at SEC Newgate. Paul says, why is there a problem about VAT? Exports from the UK are zero rated. I think Allie and Paul highlighting how difficult this would be. There was a suggestion in some reporting that April is when he's targeting for bringing in this sort of universal global tariff. He's dealing with a lot right now, is Donald Trump, or certainly sending a lot of messages out, isn't he? Either on Ukraine or tariffs.
And they say this is going to be the thing that makes our country really prosperous again. And this is going to be what pays down to $36 trillion in debt and all the other things. And this is going to be, this is an amazing day. I think this is going to be a very big day and in a very positive way for our country. Yes, please.
Mr. President.
Reciprocal makes tariffs really fair. The EU's been very nasty. It's just been, they haven't treated us properly. Look, we were great to them on NATO. Essentially, it's a similar group of countries. When I came in, my first term, I raised their fees. I mean, they were not paying. We were paying for, in my opinion, almost all of NATO. And now, you know, I had the bad moment with the press where the press said, well, does this mean you won't protect them? And I said, I won't protect them if they're not paying. But because I said that, the Secretary General, as you know, said it was the greatest thing he's ever seen because the money came pouring in. But they don't treat us right on trade. They don't treat us right on the military either. I mean, it's a beautiful, simple system, and we don't have to worry about, gee, we're charging too much or too little. But traditionally, India is right at the top of the pack, pretty much. There are a couple of smaller countries that are actually more, but India is a very, they charge tremendous tariffs. And that's what people can do with us. They can build a factory here, a plant or whatever it may be here, and that includes the medical, that includes cars, that includes chips and semiconductors, that includes everything. If you build here, you have no tariffs whatsoever. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think our country is going to be flooded with jobs. And we want it to be made. We want those companies to come to our country, in all due respect. You know, they took the business away. Taiwan took our chip business away. We had Intel, we had these great companies that did so well, and it was taken from us, and we want that business back. We want it back in the United States. And if they don't bring it back, we're not going to be very happy. No, I think that a lot of them will stay the same, and whatever they pay, I'll pay. I mean, we'll have a lot of them stay the same. I think some, look, I heard they, as an example, EU lowered their tax on cars down to the exact same amount that they were much higher. They were approximately 5 times higher, and they lowered them down to the exact tax that we're charging. That took place like yesterday or the day before. Is that a correct statement? Oh, I think what's going to go up is jobs are going to go up, and prices could go up somewhat short term, but prices will also go down. And I think the farmers are going to be helped by this very much because product is being dumped into our country, and our farmers are getting hurt very badly by the last administration.